Eddie Hearn has decided to drop Michael Hunter from the Matchroom roster. After Hunter's 3-fight deal had expired, Eddie Hearn decided not to renew his contract. Michael Hunter responded by saying the following, quote, "It's all good. That's just how life moves. It was a business move. Nothing is ever promised, and you don't know what the next move will be. I don't want to be fighting for someone who doesn't want me anyway. I was never fully embraced. I was more like an independent contractor for them. They didn't want me to fight their in-house guys. I'm the boogeyman to them. It was hard for them to find fights for me, but I found that flattering that opponents avoided me. That's the best badge of honor I could get. I know not renewing my contract was a business move, and I have no ill feelings towards them. I was a high-risk, low-reward fighter for opponents. It doesn't make sense for rival promoters not to see my potential. I'm a young black American, I speak well, I come from a boxing family, and I'm growing. We're going to continue to take over. I think I'm still in a good position. I still have aspirations. I want to leave a great legacy for my family. I know what kind of potential I have. I will not settle for anything less." End quote. And Eddie Hearn has responded to the situation with the following. He said, quote, "We did not make him a new offer following the expiration of his contract. There is a lot of heavyweight congestion, and with the current issues and backlog, I didn't feel we could deliver him fights with our outstanding obligations within the division." End quote. So, what do I think about this? Well, I suspect that at some stage, Eddie Hearn will live to regret not retaining Michael Hunter. I think so. I think Michael Hunter is an underrated heavyweight. I think he's a dark horse in the division. And although I don't think he can go on to reign supreme in the division, I do think he has a lot of potential for causing major upsets. Now, I understand what Eddie Hearn is saying in terms of there being a lot of congestion. And we know that boxing has been hit very hard by the lockdown policy, as have most other industries. And therefore, you're going to have to prioritize certain fighters above other fighters. And that means some guys might have to be let go. But I think Eddie Hearn has made a mistake in not making Michael Hunter one of his priorities. At least putting him further up on the totem pole. Prioritizing him a bit more than he did. I really think that Michael Hunter is a problem for many heavyweights out there. He obviously was hoping, when he signed to Matchroom, that he could get the likes of the AJ fight, the Dylan White fight. I mean, he was even calling out people like Hrgovic. I think he's a problem for all those guys. I really do. There's also Usyk, who's with Matchroom, and he's talked about having a rematch with Usyk. This is one of the fighters in the heavyweight division who's literally been calling out everybody. So, when a guy is that keen to fight, and yet he still can't get fights, it is a bit puzzling. Perhaps it's because Michael Hunter doesn't really have a big fan base, but that's where I think Eddie Hearn has missed the trick. I think he had the potential to grow a decent fan base, not just in the United States, but even in the UK. British fans are open to foreign fighters who come over who are really game and they're willing to get stuck in, and that's exactly what Michael Hunter is. Even though he's a smaller heavyweight, moving up from cruiserweight, we saw against Martin Bakole. We saw against Alexander Povetkin in his last fight that he's perfectly willing to stand and trade. And in fact, Michael Hunter is quite a fast starter. He certainly has been at heavyweight, and that's exciting. He's not the biggest one-punch knockout artist you've ever seen, but he's got respectable power. He certainly stopped Bakole. He stopped a big man in Ustinov. He hurt Povetkin several times early in their fight. I mean, you look at the early rounds of Hunter Povetkin and compare them to the early rounds of AJ Povetkin, and you tell me who did better against Povetkin. I'm telling you, it was Michael Hunter because of that speed. So again, while I don't think he's going to go on to reign supreme in the division, I think he's got a lot of potential there to cause upsets. And I think he's got potential to be a fan favorite, if I'm honest with you. So I think Eddie Hearn has missed the trick there. And any promoter out there who is, has got a stake in the heavyweight division, they should be looking at Michael Hunter. Because the only way this guy's going to get a title shot is by maneuvering himself into a mandatory position, it would seem at the moment. And once he's in that mandatory position, he's going to be a dangerous hombre. I'm telling you now, because he would then have the opportunity to fight for a world title. And if he can win, sail off into the sunset with the belt. So, yeah, I think Eddie Hearn has missed the trick. I think Michael Hunter is underrated. I think Eddie Hearn will probably live to regret this decision. Now, I know that there are a ton of heavyweights currently signed to Matchroom, but just think about it. I know some of these guys are still under contract, right? But he doesn't have to keep them under contract once they come to the end of their deal. But Martin Bakole is fighting Sergey Kuzmin. I think that's on the Dillian Whyte Povetkin undercard. Well, both those guys lost to Michael Hunter. Alexander Povetkin, who's fighting in the main event against Dillian Whyte, he drew with Michael Hunter. In my personal opinion, he actually lost to Michael Hunter. So think about that. I mean, Eddie Hearn is still working with fighters like Dave Allen, David Price. I would pick Michael Hunter over both those guys in a heartbeat. I think he's leagues above the pair of them, particularly Dave Allen. But Hearn continues to work at least with Allen. I'm not sure what's going on with Pricey. And to be fair, I'm not aware of either of them being under any kind of long-term contract with Hearn. But again, Dillian Whyte works with Eddie Hearn on a fight-by-fight basis. So he could have done the same with Michael Hunter, but there just appeared to be no desire on behalf of Matchroom to really push Michael Hunter as a potential star in his own right. And I know I'm repeating myself here, people, but I think that this guy has got a lot of qualities there whereby he could get the fans behind him, or, you know, a certain maybe cult following behind him. I think Michael Hunter could do that because he's a very bright, bushy-tailed young man. And as you heard there from his response to Matchroom not renewing his contract, he's still very upbeat. He's still very positive. And you see, this is what you have to look at with a fighter. It's not just what you see in the ring, but it's his attitude. See, this is a very driven young man, a very positive young man, a man who believes in his abilities. That right there is somebody, in my opinion, who has the potential to go places because of that attitude that he has. And some people have criticized Michael Hunter for being scrappy in the ring. Yeah, sometimes he can look scrappy, particularly after the first few rounds, because Michael Hunter tends to start quite fast and really put it on you in the first couple rounds. And after that, he doesn't really have the same level of energy. He can still go the distance, as we've seen against Povetkin. Bakole fight nearly went the distance. He went the distance with Alexander Usyk. So he can go the distance, but he exerts so much energy in the early going that he doesn't really hold his form together as the fight goes on. So maybe that's something he can work on, but he's still a young guy. And if you look at Michael Hunter's record here, he's 18-1-1. I personally think it should be 19-1. I think he beat Povetkin in that fight, but, you know, it wasn't out-and-out robbery or anything like that. I can accept a draw, but personally, I feel like he was a little unlucky not to get the win. So he's 18-1-1 with 12 KOs. He is currently 31 years of age. For a heavyweight, that's still relatively young. All right, he's no spring chicken, but he's still relatively young. Last fight, the draw with Povetkin. Before that, beat Kuzmin. Before that, Fabio Maldonado. That was an early KO win. Before that, Ustinov. This is prior to him signing with Matchroom. Martin Bakole, Yargo Kaladze. Now remember, Yargo Kaladze is the guy who recently dropped Efe Ajagba. Michael Hunter had no such issues. And obviously for Usyk, bunch of guys at cruiserweight as well. Now, in terms of where Michael Hunter can go from here, well, PBC would be the obvious place to go. If not PBC, then ESPN. Now, there could be a vacancy at ESPN because of the fact that Jarrell Miller is having this issue with apparently failing another PED test. Now, Michael Hunter is not the name that Jarrell Miller is yet, because Jarrell Miller is a very outspoken trash talker, larger-than-life character, nearly full AJ. Hunter doesn't have that type of profile, but if Bob Arum knows what he's doing then that could be somewhere that Michael Hunter could go and maybe have some success, because of course Bob Arum does have several heavyweights. I think Oscar Rivas is with Bob Arum now. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's certainly got Kubrat Pulev. He's got Tyson Fury. There might be a couple other guys there as well. So ESPN, Top Rank, he could potentially go there. And of course, with PBC, there's Andy Ruiz. He's a PBC heavyweight. And not only has Michael Hunter sparred Andy Ruiz, in fact, he sparred him for the AJ rematch, and all the rumors that came out of that camp were that Michael Hunter was giving Ruiz the business in sparring. But not only has he sparred Andy Ruiz, but he also beat him in the amateurs. I've heard some people say that he actually stopped Ruiz in the amateurs, but I'm not sure. I can't verify that. Maybe some of you in the comments can tell me whether or not that's actually true. But that's a potential fight for him if he goes over to PBC. Andy Ruiz. Who else have they got over there? Deontay Wilder, obviously. We'll see what happens to him post-Fury rematch. They've got Dominic Brazil. They've got Efe Ajagba. They've got... God, who else? Oh yeah, they've got that Sanchez guy, the Cuban. They've also got Luis Ortiz. So they do have a few heavyweights over there. Now, here's another point I should have made earlier. Eddie Hearn's talking about after this lockdown, or, while this lockdown is being eased, fighters are going to have to be in 50-50s. He's not going to be able to give these guys soft touches, okay, because it's just not viable financially at this point because of the way lockdown has affected the industry. Well, if that was the case, again, why couldn't he find him a 50-50 while he was still a matchroom fighter? To me, that's puzzling. Is it just the management of some of the fellow matchroom fighters over there who didn't want them to fight Michael Hunter? Or is it just that Eddie Hearn didn't believe in Hunter enough? I don't know. Well, the same goes for PBC. We haven't heard anything from PBC, or I haven't, in terms of what their schedule's going to be. I mean, Matchroom have announced shows. ESPN have been doing shows. Frank Warren has announced shows. DAZN, I think, are back doing shows. Where are PBC? Where are their shows? If they do start announcing shows, then, again, I'd like to see Michael Hunter in some 50-50s. I know he'd be up for it. Perhaps this Frank Sanchez guy, forgot his first name a few moments ago. Frank Sanchez, who's called out Michael Hunter, maybe that's a fight they could make immediately for him. We'll see whether Michael Hunter's up for that one. I'm sure Michael Hunter would rather somebody like an Efe Ajagba, because Ajagba's more high profile than Frank Sanchez. I'm sure he'd rather an Andy Ruiz. I think that'd be a great fight for Michael Hunter. But would Ruiz be up for that? Because Ruiz seems to have had his confidence knocked a little bit after being schooled in the AJ rematch. Because they were talking about Luis Ortiz for Andy Ruiz, and he was like, I need a tune-up fight first. So his confidence is, taking a little bit of a knock, it would seem. Dominic Brazil, I think that's a very, very winnable fight for Michael Hunter. I think Dominic Brazil is so slow. Michael Hunter might actually have a field day against that guy. I wouldn't discount the possibility of Michael Hunter actually stopping Dominic Brazil. I know Brazil's tough, and it's only big punchers like AJ and Wilder have got him out of there. But Michael Hunter has got rid of big guys before, as we saw with Martin Bacoli. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about this move by Eddie Hearn to drop Michael Hunter from his heavyweight roster. I personally feel that Michael Hunter was actually one of the most talented heavyweights he had, and I think he's missed the trick by not renewing that contract and not making him more of a priority. Perhaps it's got to do with Matchroom US as well. Maybe DAZN have switched it up and told Eddie Hearn, well, coming out of the lockdown, we're not going to have the same budget for Matchroom US, assuming Eddie Hearn was looking to have Michael Hunter box over there. Obviously, there are going to be travel restrictions or what have you that he has to take into consideration. And maybe he just felt that, the budget restrictions over in the US with DAZN meant that he can't get Michael Hunter the fights he maybe wanted. Who knows? I'm not a person behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what was discussed between Hunter and Matchroom. Perhaps Hunter wanted certain things which Matchroom weren't willing to guarantee or provide. Who knows? Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.